पश्यन्ति यं योगिनो यशान्तं न विदुः सुरासुरगणाः देवाय तस्मै नमः देवाय तस्मै नमः ॐ श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः।
ॐ नारायणः परो व्यक्तात् अण्डमव्ययसम्भवम् अण्डस्यान्तस्त्विमे लोकाः सप्तद्वीपा च मेदिनी ॐ सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्तिः शान्तिः शान्तिः। The last objection and its samadhanam for verse 16, chapter 2, and it is expressed in a particular, expressed in an interesting way. Ekadhikaranatvam घटादि विषय अभावे न युक्तम इति चेत. It's version 2.0 of an earlier objection that had come, that how can Sat Buddhi and Asad Buddhi, how can they join together? Remember that objection? Yeah. So it's an updated version of that one, but it's different. In the sense here, the key words is this ekadhikarana, meaning in the one and same locus. You say that when you see pot, what do you see? You see pot, which is Mithya, and then what else do you see? There you are also aware of yourself. That consciousness is very much there. That Sad Buddhi is also there. Now, the contention here is this, that the pot ghata bhave, meaning when ghatadi visheshya means anything, any substance, visheshya, that which is the object here, any kind of a substance is not there. Okay, then where is, so Sad Buddhi you say persists, but then the Asad Buddhi is along with Sad Buddhi you say. And how can the twofold consciousness centering around the one and the same object be there even in the absence of the pot? The absence of the pot is cognized, and the pot by definition is coming to light because of Asad Buddhi, because of Mithya Buddhi. And then in the absence of the pot, how can these two modes of grasping the Asad and Sat at the same time be centered on something that is already not there? How is, in other words, absence is recognized by Sad Buddhi. Okay, that I can accept. The absence is recognized by Sad Buddhi, but the absence of what? Absence of pot. So pot is what we are talking about. So the absence of pot is recognized by that sadbuddhi which is non-separate from myself. Okay, that much I can understand. But the asad buddhi features, because we are talking about a pot that is not here, that is time bound, that has been destroyed, or that has simply gained what is called adarshanam, meaning it is a lupta pot, it is a disappeared pot, it is a pot that is not there. So when what is the pot, the in the Purva Pakshi's word, when the substance is not there, how can that pot buddhi be there? Sat buddhi can persist, yes, but how can pot buddhi persist? Because without the pot buddhi, you cannot say pot is not, because you are constrained to use the word pot. So in the sentence, pot is not. Is buddhi is there in the word is, but the pot buddhi is there also, and that pot buddhi which we had already said it is mithya. So how can mithya buddhi be there in the recognition of something we are talking of is not there right now? That is the objection here. Very involved and an intelligent Purva Pakshi. This one is very engaged. So let us see the answer. Na. Oh, that's a one word answer. No, one syllable answer. Na. You are wrong. Why? Idam udakam iti maricyadau anyatara abhave api samanadhikaranya darshanat. Because you see, when you look at a mirage, you are in search of an oasis, but due to prarabdha karma, what you see is only a mirage. Okay, so you see mirage, and then the mirage has water, does it not? Yes, that's why it's called mirage. Mirage water asti eva. And then you see mirage, and then the mirage appears to be having udakam. Idam udakam iti. This water belongs to mirage. When you understand, you see both the things. You see the absent water and you see it connected to the mirage. In this example, the mirage is the recognition that this is mirage is because of the Sat Buddhi. But what about the water in the mirage? That also was seen. So the mirage is appearing to have water. Then in the same object, which is the mirage, there is water which is belonging to Asat Buddhi, as well as the consciousness of its existence. Its meaning the mirage's existence, which is Sat Buddhi. The awareness of the mirage, Sat Buddhi, and all the flora, fauna that you see around the mirage, Asat Buddhi. So you see, the two things are very much there. So this objection is quashed in just one sentence. And because the Asat Buddhi here means Mithya, and he's going to use it as Adi Shankara is going to use the word Mithya as a parting shot. Just as we are getting to leave this verse, he just drops the word Mithya so that it will be easier for him to take it up later on. And in the beginning he doesn't use it because he doesn't want people to get confused. And he doesn't want people to get confused. He wants to look at Sad Buddhi and Asat Buddhi. Asat here he defines as Mithya. He is going to do that very shortly. So then he is getting ready to conclude from this and move on from this verse. Tasmad deha dehe dvandyasya cha sakaranasya asatah na vidyate bhavah iti. So what the verse said in the beginning, that which is Mithya does not have existence. That which is Mithya does not have an independent existence. That which was said earlier in the verse still stands. So therefore what? Deha dehe dvandvasya cha. So the body, etc. Deha dehe for the body, etc. And then Why body, etc.? Because remember, we are talking about all the things that affect the body mind sense complex, such as heat and cold, pairs of opposite. That's why it is called dvandva. Dvandva, all the pairs of opposites, such as heat and cold. What else? Sorrow, happiness, exaltation and dejection, these pairs of opposites, and their causes, sakaranasya dvandvasya, because those have causes. It could be certain, one is in a bad mood because of one could not get one's way, or it could be that one could not control the temperature, etc., etc. So those pairs of opposites along with their causes, asataha na vidyate bhavaha, all those pairs of opposites which are experienced as real, this we have to understand, which are experienced as existent, which are experienced as self-existent, unfortunately. Heat and cold are not self-existent. Yes, they are evident to the self, but they are not self-evident. Big difference here. So heat and cold, Shita, Ushna, what else is there? Sukha, Dukkha, all other opposites, things like this. They are experienced all right. They are very much experienced, but then they are not, what is that called? They are not self-standing. They are not self-existent, because heat depends on so many factors, including one's sensation, heat and cold. Sorrow and happiness likewise depend on so many factors, starting with one's moods, etc., etc. And so they are not sat, in other words, they don't have a self-standing reality, they do not have that. And so therefore what? They are not sat, they are asat. Here asat means mithya. So na vidyate bhavaha. Bhavaha means existence, an independent existence is not there for these sensations, heat, cold and sorrow, happiness, etc. तथा सतः च आत्मनः अभावः अविद्यमानता न विद्यते सर्वत्र अव्यभिचाराद् इति अवोचाम. We have already said, what have we said? That the Sat, for the Sat, which is the Self, which is the Atma, Satah cha Atmanah, for this I, which is Sat, which is the only thing, unlike other things which are the object of becoming evident to Sat. Sat is alone the subject, and then just like the objects do not have an independent existence other than I, the self does not have any kind of disappearance. Self cannot be non-existent, and all other things depending upon the I cannot be existent on their own. This is what the verse said in the beginning. And a good commentator will always sum it up, especially after such a long bhashya. And so the self, which is Sat, does not have anything which can make it adarshana, which can make it non-existent. It doesn't, it cannot be non-existent under no condition. Sarvatra means at any time, at any place, under any circumstances. Avyabhicharat. Why? Because it does not deviate from its state, from its nature. It does not go away from its nature. It does not give up its nature. Iti avojama. This we have already talked about. So this he says, whether you remember that I talked about it or not, I certainly remember that I talked about it. And so I am getting ready to conclude. In other words, O ye Purva Pakshis of the world, do not bring up any objections. Now we are getting ready to wrap up this discussion here. And so therefore this is a summation of all that has gone so far. And then, two other sentences by way of conclusion. Evam, Atma anatmanoho sad asatoho ubhayo api drishtah upalabdhah antah nirnayah sad eva asad eva iti tu anayoho yathoktayoho tattvadarshibhihi. So evam means in this manner, in this way. Tattvadarshibihi means by those who understand the truth of the self. More about the word Tattvadarshi, he will take it up in the last sentence. So for now, the one who sees the Tattva, who understands the self as Sat. So those who understand the truth, then what do they know? They understand Sat as Sat and Asat as Sat, as Asat. They understand the two very distinctly. There is no confusion for them. For the knowers of the Atma, these Tattvadarshis, there is no confusion. Why? Sad Sadeva, Asad Asadeva iti, they understand. Meaning, they don't have a confusion between I and not I. The cause of samsara, as we have seen in many situations, is that confusion between aham, I, and everything that the I objectifies. Whatever the I objectifies cannot affect the I. And the I, as we are going to be seeing in verse number 17, cannot affect itself. Cannot, like you cannot, what is that? You cannot cut off the nose to spite the face. There is an expression. And meaning that, why is that not possible for the Atma? Atma has no nose. Simple. No parts. Atma has no toes. Okay, so there is no self-sabotage possible. There is no other sabotage by other forces possible. And so therefore, evam eva, in this way, those who know this, those who know that the I is indestructible, that the I is unaffected by anything that you see, the I is unafflicted by anything that you are able to observe by any means of knowledge, is, that those are called Tattvadarshis, and that which you observe cannot attack you. You are free of being, you are free of getting destroyed by any other source, because ultimately all other things, when you say any other source, whenever you say source or any other object, that object does not enjoy the same reality, Mithya. And the Tattvadarshis also know one more thing, even though it's not mentioned here, it's important to say. The Tattvadarshis know one more thing. What do they know? Mithya is non-separate from Sat. Asat relies on Sat. Sat does not rely on Asat. So this is a funny Asat. Asat again doesn't mean non-existent. It means that which enjoys a dependent existence, not non-existent. Here, so Asat means Mithya, and so this Mithya which is dependent on Sat is nothing but Sat. That's why there is no problem for the people. For the people who know what is what, there is no problem, because when they observe heat and cold, or when they observe various moods in the mind, then they are not affected by that, because they know that these moods depend on the I, but the I is free of these moods and these sensations. Whether those sensations are pleasant, like having a nice warm blanket in the winter, or whether those sensations are unpleasant. Regardless, they are not affecting me. In fact, those sensations depend on me in order to be sensed. They are the object of my revelation. I reveal them. They do not reveal me. I am self-revealing, and I reveal them. And then, what else? So then, evam, So those who know this, they have understood this very well. Then he goes into the word Tattva-darshin, Tattva-darshi, and then so he says Tad iti sarvanama. So Tad is a sarvanama. Sarvanama means it is a pronoun. And then it's very sarvanama, he takes it literally. He says sarvasya nama, sarvanama. So it is a pronoun. Sarvanama grammatically means pronoun. But here he takes it as the name of everything, as the source of everything. Sarvancha Brahma tasya nama. Very nice. What is everything? Brahman. Brahman is everything. And then the name of that Brahman is called Sarvanama. And so therefore Tad iti Tad bhavaha. So what is this Tad? The Tad is here the epithet is a name for Brahman. That is why Tad is Brahman. Because Tad means it's a sarvanama, it's the name of everything, and everything is Brahman. So therefore Tad is Brahman. What a logic, very nice. So Tad iti, so Tad bhavaha, tattvam. So then Tad iti, Tad is the epithet of Brahman, and therefore if the Tad means that, if the word that is a name for Brahman, then that-ness is called Tad-bhavaha, Tattvam, that-ness. How can you say that-ness? The status of being that. That means what? In very beautiful. Unto which all names and all forms resolve. That which is the parent folder where all the files are kept. Every single jiva, its karmic trajectory, and every single animate thing, inanimate thing, every single cycle of creation and all the blueprint of the entire Jagat. That which holds everything, that is what is called this Brahman. So that is Tattvam. The abstract noun here, called Brahman here, Tattva is Tadbhava. Tasya Bhava is called Tattva. So that, that the nature of that is so the nature of when you say Tadbhava, then there is an identity with the word Tattvam and Brahman. How? Because he says so, Tattvam Brahmanaha Yathatmyam. So what is this Tattva? Tattva is Yathatmya. Yathatmya means Yatha Atma. That's what it is. It is exactly like Brahman. Atmanam Anatikramya. So this is exactly the exact nature of Brahman is expressed in the word thatness, Tattvam. So now that we have understood the word thatness, why are we interested in the word Tattvam? Because we are doing a very involved derivation of the word Tattva-darshi. So Tattvam is equal to Brahman according to Adi Shankara. And then here, Tad drashtum sheelam yesham te Tattva-darshinaha. A very interesting suffix here. Nini. Nini is the suffix. And then, one thing we know about Nini is that it is used to express a habitual, like something that it is used to express capacity which is habitual. So, if supposing somebody is able to see Brahman, see means again within apostrophe, is able to know Brahman just once, and then after that knowledge for some reason is gone, then that person is not a Tattva-darshi. So the Tattva-darshi is the one who is accustomed all the time to see, to understand this truth of the self. That is where the Nini comes in. This Nini affix, Krit affix called Nini comes in to show the habitual nature of something. Like if we say, what is that? The stock example in the grammar books is, Ushna Bhoji, Ushna Bhoji, Ushna Bhuj. So Ushna Bhuj is who? The one who likes to have his meal hot. So it's not Ushnam Bhunkte Kadachit. It's not someone who, has the meal hot once in a while. Once in a while, give me a hot meal and I am okay. Not such a person. Such a person is not, Ushna Bhoji. So, but the person who wants a hot meal all the time, who's accustomed to eating hot food, is so Ushna Bhuj plus Nini gives the Pratipadika Ushna Bhojin. So that thing should be there, where the person is accustomed to it all the time. The Tachilya. Tachilya means all the time. It becomes a habit. So here also, Yadhatmyam Tattvam Drashtum Sheelam. That Sheelam, here Sheelam generally means conduct, but here it means a habitual conduct. So it's a habit. So Tattvam Drashtum Sheelam Yesham Te. So those who have that, who are accustomed to seeing Sat as Sat and not confusing it with Mithya, they are called Tatvadarshinaha, Taihi Tatvadarshibhihi. This is the word from the verse. Anayoho Tatvadarshibhihi. Very beautiful derivation. Very, very, very nice. And so this is, so therefore what? Let the Tattvadarshis, the seers of the truth see all these things. They see this, what is it to me? And therefore Adi Shankara brings it back to Arjuna. And who is Arjuna? Everybody listening to the Bhagavad Gita is Arjuna. So therefore he concludes, Tvamapi Tattvadarshinam Drishtim Ashritya Shokam Mohan Chahitva Shitoshnadini Niyata Aniyata Rupani Dvandvani Vikaraha Ayam Asat Eva Marichi Jalavat Mithya Avabhasate iti Manasi Nishchitya Titikshasva iti Abhiprayah. So the crux of the verse is not that, oh, Tattvadarshis, I salute you. You know what is what, wonderful, fantastic. Can I come sit with you? Maybe it will rub off. And can I just come and say hello? And that's not the idea. Can I take a selfie? Me with Tattvadarshi. What is this? You're hugging the Tattvadarshi. Okay, that's what it is. So, can I take a selfie? No. That's not the point of the verse describing the Tattvadarshi, describing the people who not just see the truth, but who live in that on a habitual basis, 24/7, 365, for whom this knowledge is well assimilated and who do not swerve from this knowledge, no matter how great the difficulties they may fall into in their lives. That is the Tattvadarshi. Okay, let them be that. So what is it for me? Tvamapi. You also have no more excuse after listening to this verse in such great detail. Why? Tattvadarshinam drishtim ashritya. You take refuge in the vision of the Tattvadarshi. In the vision. Yeah, but those are ninis. Those have that habitual accomplishment. I am not one for whom this nini affix. I am not qualified to have this at the end. This affix, I don't qualify for this affix. No, doesn't matter. You can be a kadachit kaha, meaning once in a while I will take refuge in this buddhi. I will make an attempt. I will make some effort. And what is the effort? The effort is not to know this. The knowing happens with exposure to the pramana in the form of Vedanta. Where is the effort? The effort is in is in responding to the various things that happen in one's life. That is the level of practice. That is the level of effort. And that is what is Karma Yoga. We are going to be told in the succeeding verses, in the successive verses. That is what is Karma Yoga. How to receive the results of action, whether you know them to be the results of action for yourself, or whether they are the results of other people's actions, omissions and commissions that you have to then bear and respond to. How to respond to that with grace, integrity and wisdom. That is where Adi Shankara gives a very nice concluding Upadesha, concluding teaching. We are done with the Bhagavad Gita already? No, just the 16th verse of the second chapter is getting concluded. So what is this? What is this parting Upadesha? Tvamapi tattvadarsinam drishtim ashritya. So point 1, take refuge in this buddhi. Enjoy that temperament which is enjoyed by the Tattvadarshis. You also take refuge in that temperament. I can do that as long as I don't have a temper. Okay, at least in between two bouts of certain tempers, take the refuge. Take refuge in this buddhi. And then what? And then so what will happen if I take refuge in this buddhi of being able to see sad buddhi and as myself, and asad buddhi as mithya, and not affecting the sad buddhi? What will happen? Then you can apply it in the everyday life. This is a knowledge that is assimilated through this application, through its application to various situations. And so what is the situation? Shokam moham chahitva. Hitva, giving up. So, casting off. And giving up what? Shokam moham. So, shoka, moha, sorrow, delusion, etc. Giving up that. How to give up sorrow? Disengage from it. Disengage from it. How? Cognitively. Cognitively, just to be able to observe that itself is a form of a powerful disengagement. And you see, this is all there in the in the tradition as we see. And then if we look at things, if we look at Buddhism, and if we look at the especially Zen Buddhism, where they practice mindfulness, they have some very, very helpful ways of disengagement, of a conscious disengagement. So this is just on the level of practice. So what do they do? When in doubt, breathe. Yeah, breathe. Oh, that's all I have to do? Yes. So in the beginning, because one's whole body is affected, and it's not just the mind that is outraged by a certain situation, the body is outraged, the senses are outraged, the breath is also manifesting this outrage. One is breathing like an animal in the beginning, one is hyperventilating. And that's why what to do? Have some, just observe the breathing. And the practice of mindfulness doesn't say, breathe normally. No, you are not able to breathe normally. That's why one is in this situation. You're just hyperventilating. Watch the hyperventilation. When you watch it, you immediately can see that it is not you. You watch the hyperventilation, and after a few seconds, and if the situation is dire, after a few minutes, what will happen? The breath calms down. Then what to do? Keep watching the breathing. And when the breathing settles down, and when you're able to watch something so close to you as your own prana, and then the prana and apana, the inhalation and exhalation, when you watch, then you put that same observation, you direct it towards the cause of disturbance at hand. You direct it towards the cause of disturbance. And then what? Then you become much more present, and then that disengagement is very, very obvious. Yes, this is affecting me. Yes, I would not like to be treated this way. How dare they treat me this way? Fie upon them. And all these things, one says. And then after a while, you understand two things. One is you have no say over somebody else's behavior, over somebody else's, what they are going to say, you don't even know. Even if you've been married to them for 50 years, you don't know what's going to come out of their mouth. You don't know. You have no idea. And not only do you have no idea, you have no control over what they are going to say, much less how they are going to behave towards you. You cannot demand that they should be a certain way, because if they could, I'm sure they would. They have their own helplessness, etc., whatever is going on for them, which is making them lose it. And so therefore, you have only any say that you have is with regard to your own responses, where the reactivity is lessened and converted into a response. When you say reaction, it's just a impulsive outburst, unthought of, impulsive. But when you say response, it's a two-step process. One is to quell the tsunami of emotions within. How? Just to observe it. We are not suppressing anything. We are just watching. Titikshasva. Titiksha is to observe. And so titikshasva, you just observe this. And then we have, when you observe it, immediately it loses the bite. Within a few minutes, it loses the bite. And then that mindfulness in observing the situation. You start first with observing your own breathing, observing your body. Are your fists clenched? Is your face, deflated and full of all kinds of, is your face scowling? Are your jaws locked? All these things you see. You loosen the face, you loosen the body, you unclench everything, and in the process of unclenching is the process of unclinging. This is the teaching here. And then what? Then so the observing it is half the battle won. And then what is there are a few more steps in this observation. So you observe it, observe anything as agamapayi, that which comes and goes. Why? Because they are niyata aniyata rupani. Rupani, they have a form. What is that? They are here now, they are not here now, this is how it is. And then they are nothing, they are appearing now, they'll disappear later, like even the mirage and the water in the mirage. Dvandvani. And then how do we know that, they come and go? Because they are in the form of opposites. Too hot, too hot, too hot. Too cold, too cold, too cold. This is how this goes. Up and down it goes. And then what are they? Vikaraha. This is a vikara. They are modifications of what? Of certain conditions. They are modifications of the mind. They are modifications of sensations, the sense organs. The sense organs modify themselves to first detect heat, then detect cold, etc., or discomfort, etc., etc. And so then these modifications are mithya. They are as though they depend on oneself. They are not, they depend on oneself alone. That is basically what is being talked about here. They are not independent of you, but you, my dear fellow, are independent of all of them. And so therefore what? So therefore, ayam asat eva. And then Step number 3 is in this observation is to say, this is Mithya. This is Mithya. This is Mithya. And he uses the word here, Ayam asat eva marichi jalavat Mithya. Mithya. It's a dependent reality. It cannot be. Heat and cold cannot accost you, cannot be dangerous, and cannot make you afraid, or even conditions of the mind cannot make you sorrowful, delusional, or afraid, primarily because they are dependent upon you for their existence. If you were not calling them out and making them evident, they would not be evident by themselves. Like the sensation of cold doesn't come and say, you who, I am here. No, you have to say it is cold. You give it life. This is what is Mithya. Mithya is never away from Sat. It's dependent upon Sat. But Sat, I said myself, that which is, which is one with the Tattva, that which the Tattvadarshis know, this is what is I, and it can never, Mithya can never overpower Sat. And Mithya avabhasate. Avabhasate means it's a mere appearance. It appears like that. And, and then what? It avabhasate in its own time. It appears. They are just an apparition. It appears in its own time. It disappears in its own time. It is a vikara. It is an as though modification of this Sat alone. But it is a modification where Sat has not participated in it at all, other than to bring this modification to light. That is what Sat does. It is non-separate from Sat, but Sat is not undergone any modification to become Mithya. So this apparent reality which appears and then disappears, which is non-separate from the entire Jagat. The whole Jagat is just completely an apparent reality. And that apparent reality takes refuge in Sat. And similarly, you take refuge in the view of the people who know Sat. You take refuge in that view. And therefore, equipping yourself with this, and then iti manasi nishchitya, equipping yourself with this knowing, ascertaining this within your mind, titikshasva iti abhiprayah. Titikshasva means please keep on observing this. Please keep on observing this and know that whatever you observe cannot overpower you. This is, Karma Yoga, which is a form of lived Vedanta, and that is what is very, very important here. And then that brings us to the next verse, which talks about, the verse number 16 talked a lot about Mithya, and then there might be some confusion. What is Sat? How to distinguish Sat from Mithya? You say, and why is it confusing? Because you say Mithya is Sat, but Sat is not Mithya. If Sat is not Mithya, what is this Sat? How do I know it? To respond to this question, the 17th verse here, this is the connection to the 17th verse. Avinashitu tadvidhi, avinashitu tadvidhi, yena sarvamidantatam, yena sarvamidantatam, vinashamavyayasyasya, vinashamavyayasyasya, na kaschit kartum arhati, na kaschit kartum arhati. Vidhi. Vidhi means you must know this. You must know this. What is it that you must know? You must know Tat. Tat is Brahman. Tat is you. Tat is Sat. You must know this Brahman, which is the truth of you, as Avinashi. Same nini that is there. That nini gives the sense of always. Avinashi na vinashtum shilam asya asti iti. Avinashi, avinashin. So that, vinashtum shilam means the capacity for being destroyed is not there for which? Na asti. So that which is indestructible is called avinashi, when? Always. That is why the nini pratyaya shines here, because it is not, it is avinashi today and then tomorrow, oops, it's gone. No. That may be things in the jagat that you think are avinashi, but they are all what? Vinashi. So this is avinashi. Avinashi means it cannot be destroyed. And then he is going to go into a very nice discussion about who is there to destroy this I. How can this Atma be destroyed? First of all, what is the agent of destruction? There should be an agent. What is the agent of destruction? Oh, somebody else. That somebody else is again an extension of you. That Sat and Mithya, a Mithya person, another body, a Mithya body cannot, overpower Sat, overpower you. It may be able to destroy the body that you call yourself, that's different, but it cannot overpower you. And so therefore, this Tat has to be understood. This Tat Brahma, this Tat which has Yathatmyam with Brahman, which has got a Tadatmya, which is identified with Brahman, which is understood as Brahman, has to be known as Avinashi. Kim Tat Brahma? That Brahman is Tat, and the essence of the word Tat, which is the name for everything, which is the name for Sat, and that Sat is you. How do you know I am that Sat, you are that Sat? Because you have that is buddhi all the time. So that is buddhi is you. How do you know I am? Pinch yourself. That's the only thing I can say. And if you say ow, that means you have Sad buddhi. You are endowed with Sad buddhi. That's all one can say. So then Avinashi, tu tad vidhi. Know this Brahman, know yourself, know the truth of yourself as not subject to any kind of destruction. And then when we talk about destruction or any kind of a decimation, then there we talk about the sources of decimation. What are the sources of decimation? The sources of decimation can be threefold. So, then something other than you can come and decimate. And then there is, unfortunately or fortunately, there is nothing other than you. So then, this vijati means, there is something other than you, something unlike you can come and overpower you. Sat, Sadatma. No. Why? Because this vijati is not there. There is nothing other than Atma. There is no other species, no other genus. So then this vijatiya destruction, vijatiya nasha is not there for the Atma, for that Tat, which is the name, which is the source of everything. And then, so then maybe something like the Atma can come. Sajatiya nasha. The source of nasha called, interspecies, intraspecies nasha. Maybe there is something like Atma, another Atma that can come and snuff out this Atma which you have just spent time describing it as Sat. No, not possible. Why? Because there is nothing like the Atma. There is nothing unlike the Atma. There is not one more Atma. There is not a daddy Atma, mummy Atma. No, there is only you. There is nothing that can, even within the scope of what is Atma, there is nothing like it. There is nothing other than it. And then the third source of destruction, we say Swagata Nasha. Swagata Nasha means the left hand gives a nice beating to the right arm. bad. Sometimes people do this when they are very distressed and when they are guilty. Why did you do this? They beat themselves up literally. So can the Atma self-destruct? No. Self-destruction is not possible. Why? Avayava abhavat. It doesn't, like I said, you cannot cut off the nose to spite the face because it doesn't have nose. What about toes? It doesn't have toes. It doesn't have hands. It doesn't have legs. So these threefold sources of decimation are not there. These commonly talked about threefold sources of decimation are there for everything in the universe, which is called Mithya. So, for example, a tree. A tree can be destroyed by something other than itself. Like what? Some termites or some kind of tree fungus. For that also they paint the leaves with antifungal, some solution. They spray and paint the leaves and the roots. Like for example, for about maybe a couple of decades back, all the coconut trees got infected with some kind of a fungus. It took years to remove that. And so bacteria, trees can have bacteria, trees can have fungus, trees can have mites which is other than itself. Or one tree falls on another tree, sajatiya, and then this smaller tree, a bush perhaps, comes under that a big tree because there is some kind of a weather situation, and then one tree gets destroyed by another tree. That is possible, but that is called sajatiya. And then the tree can self-destruct. How? Maybe one branch, if something happens or something is there within itself, some kind of a developmental problem, issue with some sap not coming properly, some disease it can have within itself. So those are the three sources of bheda or distinctions or destructions. But that is there for every single thing that you see, including one's own body. Another body can cause harm, and then this body also can, this body can have some another body can, which is within the species of body. Human body can cause harm to one human body, and then or some other body outside of this scheme of things, like a lion or tiger can maul a person. That is there, vijati, or then it can also self-destruct. How does the body self-destruct? Live a few years more and then you will see how it self-destructs. For the first 40 years of life, if one is lucky, one eats the food. And then afterwards, so then one can say ahamannadah, ahamannadah, ahamannadah. In the Taittiriya Upanishad this comes, I am the eater of the food, I am the eater of the food. And then what? Then after that you say the food is eating into me. That's what happens. You go to somebody's house for lunch. No. Why? Sugar. Okay. And then no. Few months later. No. Why? Oil, cholesterol, trans fat. Here is one place where we differ from Vedanta. In Vedanta, when you use the word transcendental, it's a good thing. But when trans fat means that which transcends fat. That's not the meaning here. Okay? So cholesterol. So some foods are already gone. Gulab jamun, bye because it comes under two categories. It comes under the sugar category, it comes under the cholesterol making category also, bad cholesterol. And then after that what? Then again somebody offers you something. No. What now? Gluten intolerance. Okay, so cut out wheat. And then what? Then actually all the grains, I cannot handle pulses. Okay? Pulses cut out, grains cut out, and then I can't handle certain vegetables. Like what? Nightshades. Nightshades is all the vegetables you like. Go under nightshade. Everything that you love. Nightshade. Starting with peppers. Everything is nightshade. All kinds of peppers from the smallest to the biggest, nightshade. And then nightshade gone. Then what else? Thyroid issues. So therefore what? The doctor said don't eat cruciferous vegetables. All right, so then all the broccoli, cauliflower, cabbage, all this, bye, gone. Cruciferous vegetables gone. What else? The nightshade family gone. Then what? Then, too many greens, not able to digest because there is some kind of a bacterial issue in the intestines. So greens are gone. Along with greens, something that sounds similar, grains are also gone. And then what? You become a fresharian. You were a vegetarian, now you become a fresharian. You live on fresh air, like those plants. I liked this very much. Somebody showed me a beautiful plant which seemed to be just hanging in the air, and they had cleverly suspended this plant with a nylon string. So it was literally hanging in the air. It had some roots and it had some very beautiful long leaves, white, green, some nice colors, little, specks of brown, very nice leaves. And I said, what is this? They said, watch. And so they made me wet my hands in a little bowl of water, and to feed it, you just do prokshanam. You go like this. And then, it's very happy. You do that 2-3 times a week. And that's how it survives. It's a fresharian. It's mostly a little bit of humidity and fresh air. So that is what will happen. Next life, one is reborn in that form of that plant. That is what will happen. So this is how the self-destruction of the body is where it keeps on developing intolerance to all things, including medications also. Last time I took this medicine, it agreed. This time the body is rejecting. This is how it is. So everything in the world is finite. Everything in the world is subject to destruction, except the I, which is Sat, which is Tat, which is Brahman, as we have seen. Avinashi tu tad vidhi. Know this to be industrial. Tu here means whereas. Whereas means other than Asat. Here we are talking about Sat. This is the connection to the previous verse. The previous verse in the Gita. So then, what else should I know about this Atma? Yena sarvam idam tatam. This whole universe is pervaded by the imperishable. The imperishable Sat pervades the whole universe. And he's going to explain like this, like space pervades the pot. Where is space? Outside the pot, inside the pot, on top of the pot, underneath the pot. Space pervades the entire pot. And so therefore, Sat pervades this entire universe of names and forms. And then that's where we have to not get confused, because every name and every form draws its existence from Sat, thrives in Sat, goes back to Sat. So every name and form, basically the essence of every name and form is Sat alone. Sat, in order to be all pervasive and in order to be everything, cannot be any one thing at any given time. Sat is Sat, Asat is Sat, and this is what we have to understand. And then Sat pervades the Asat without undergoing any change, without becoming finite, so to speak. Sat pervades Asat, Asat does not pervade Sat. This is where we have to understand. So then, so if it is Avinashi, then Vinasham Avyayasya. Asya Avyayasya Vinasham. The destruction of this which is not subject to destruction. This word Avyaya comes from the root verb vi. Vi means many things, gatau, in the sense of going, etc., but also in the sense of loss, perishing. So vi, avyaya, second conjugation, I think. So so it is avyaya. And even in Sanskrit, we have the word, in the grammar, we have the word avyaya, that which, just like the particle cha. Cha means end. And, and. So you don't decline it, chaha, chau, chaha, you don't do that. Like Rama, Ramo, Ramaha, you don't do that. Why? Because it is avyaya, indeclinable. Same meaning here. It is avyaya. It does not decline. It does not wane. It is not subject to waxing. It is not subject to any kind of destruction by all these forces and sources that we have seen. Then asya avyayasya vinasham na kaschit kartum arhati. No one is capable of destroying this sat, which is itself the truth of the whole universe. What about Ishvara? Can Ishvara destroy Sat? No. Why? Because Ishvara is Sat. And more we will see next week. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.